Hi, everyone. It's Tessa.
And Joe.
From the Unveiling Paradise podcast.
Tessa, summer is almost here, and so many of our listeners are about to have their epic destination wedding.
And we are so excited for you guys.
Before the big day, guys, we want you to make sure you listen to these 3 episodes.
Episode 62, Deep Diving Your Wedding Ceremony.
Episode 53, Questions Your Wedding Guests Will Ask.
And episode 31, the final countdown to your wedding day.
And if you're planning your wedding here in Hawaii, hit us up and ask us about our Unveiling Paradise podcast promo.
Happy planning. Hey, Jet Setters, welcome back. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Hey, so good. How are you doing?
I'm excited today. So today we have one of my people here.
My people too. My people for sure. My people.
Is it? Are you a wedding planner?
Oh, I thought it was on my team.
No.
Of awesomeness.
She's on my team of awesomeness. Okay, I'm super stoked. Today we are going to be talking about wedding planning. And wedding planning is a huge range, right, of talent, imagination. It also includes wedding planning versus design versus execution. Today we have a special guest that will be focusing specifically on the wedding day, the day of execution.
Wedding planning has always been just such a confusing thing for me. It's taken me years to figure out what the difference is between a wedding planner and a wedding coordinator. I feel like wedding planning is like a cornucopia of crazy, different talents.
Great word.
Yeah, you
Great word.
That?
Yeah.
I am so excited because I still have so many questions, and I think this is going to be really helpful for our listeners too, because if I have questions and I've been in this industry for a decade, I know you guys listening have a ton of questions too, so we're going to really break it down today.
I'm really excited because today to talk about Day of Coordination, we have Natalie Christensen, who is co-owner of Aloha Bridal Connections. They are a powerhouse in the industry. They've been around for so long. They have multiple weddings, and what I love is they specialize in execution. So not executing killing people.
No, not
but
that.
Executions like the day of wedding coordination. So welcome, Natalie. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you guys both so much. So excited to be here.
We're so excited. And again, I'm so happy to have you as another wedding coordinator here. I'm excited that today it's about us.
Yes.
Maybe we let Joe talk. Maybe we don't. We'll see.
We'll see.
So I guess to get started, can you give us a quick bio about yourselves and your company?
Yes. So I'm Natalie. I'm one of our co-owners and more chief of operations with ABC, or Aloha Bridal Connections. ABC will have been in business for 10 years as of Valentine's Day.
Yes,
so
awesome. Congrats.
Thank you guys so much. Labor of love for the labors of love was kind of the joke around.
I like that.
But yeah, like Tessa said, we've got a large team. Our crew truly does specialize in execution and wrap-up realms. We're a team of coordinators and planners who really modernize and de-stress the wedding planning process just so that couples can focus on what's important and just educate and support all the way through from when they book all the way until the wedding day.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that you guys have such a specialty, which is a lot of the day of execution, the day of coordination, which is exactly what we're talking about today. So let's get started. Welcome to Unveiling Paradise, your go-to destination wedding podcast. I'm Tessa, wedding planner and owner of Fred & Kate Events.
And I'm Joe, wedding and adventure photographer of Joseph Esser Photography. We are based in Hawaii, one of the biggest, most popular locations for destination weddings.
We want to share our real-life experiences with you, give you insight from a professional's perspective, and still make sure you're having fun in the process.
We're huge believers in the fact that planning a destination wedding can be one of the most amazing experiences, and we want to bring you along.
We're so excited to talk with you about weddings, Hawaii, and everything else under the sun.
So pack your bags and let's get started.
So today we're talking about Day of Coordination, and I'm really, really excited that we have expert wedding coordination extraordinaire Natalie here to kind of go into a little of the nitty-gritty of what Day of Coordination involves, what this means from small details, right? Like counting the plates when they arrive, or putting linens on the table, or setting favors or not setting favors, or putting them at a different table, right? All of those small details to the larger ones like troubleshooting if vendors are late, or if someone is supposed to bring the cake and they don't, right? So from small to big, having a day of coordinator is a big deal. I really want to kind of dive into that with Natalie today.
Tessa, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So what's the difference really between a day of coordinator and, let's say, a wedding planner?
Definitely. We get this question a lot from our couples. Planning is in its description. It's a process that typically happens in the pre-planning of events. I mean, from when you get engaged to perhaps when you pick a wedding date and a venue, what happens from there? You know, you're planning. So a wedding planner plays a primary role in really leading you and guiding you through that entire process up until we get closer to the day. Now, a wedding planner also plays a wedding coordination role in the scope of executing and logistics and being there on the day of. But when you're diversifying services, wedding planning typically is the pre-planning process and pre-experience that you have alongside a coordinator. And then wedding coordination or wedding coordinator does focus more on the day and all the happenings around that.
I think that's so helpful. And I love that we've broken this down into like something my little brain can understand. And we are talking specifically today. We're not going to talk about planning. We're not going to talk about all the things leading up to the wedding. We're talking about the wedding day coordination. All right, so let's get into this. What does a typical day look like for a day of coordination? Is that too many days in a sentence? I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. It is a day, so you're right.
So what does a typical day look like for you and your team?
Well, amongst our team, I mean, we're spanning a minimum of 12, 14, 16 hours. And, you know, over time and over the different duties and roles we cover, it covers a lot. From very morning, let's choose an estate wedding. You know, that's what we specialize in. We're logistic planners and we get hired for those things quite often. But morning time comes, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., rentals are arriving. You know, they're the first and primary vendor that has the biggest job on the day. We are there on site overseeing them alongside other individuals that show up and different marks and really overseeing, communicating, you know, triple, quadruple checking. They're setting up tents, they're setting up tables, chairs, linens. We're there to assure that not only is everything accounted for, but everything's getting put together and, you know, based on our plans, our decor plans, our design plans, all the little nuances that our couples communicate to us, it's all happening. Not only that, we're preparing the venue visually. You know, you guys have decor pieces, you've got favors, maybe some signage, you know. All of those realms are typically the responsibility of a team like ours. And so we're making sure everything is getting put together and your guests are going to walk into a really beautiful experience. I can't speak for other coordinators, but for ABC specifically, we also are playing a role in the VIP realm of where you guys are at or where our couples are at. You know, in the getting ready process, we like to be in the room with you guys, making sure, you know, details are put out for the photographer, the room's getting tidied up, you guys aren't forgetting anything as you're walking out the door. That's a big part of what we do as well and where we feel like we can support our couples the best. You know, there's so much that happens on the day. We really fast forward in and through, you know, getting ceremony started, being by your side and fluffing your dress as you're getting down the aisle, making sure the music is playing, making sure cocktails are going to be ready to go and apps are going to be waiting for you once you're all finished. Gosh, I mean, endless little pieces and parts, but truly, I mean, we're there all day long to oversee all realms, support all vendors, and just assure you guys are having an incredible time.
And, you know, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I always compare our jobs, Natalie, to firemen, where if everything is going well, you're like, why are they here? They look like they're doing nothing, but they don't see all the behind the scenes of what we're doing. And also, right, when the chaos happens, when there's things falling apart, when the building's on fire, they were like, thank goodness we hired them, right? So it's kind of that, if it looks like we're doing nothing, it means that we're doing our jobs, right?
What's really fun to me is I think what would really surprise a lot of our couples is they don't see a lot of the things that go wrong on a wedding day. Like I've been to a wedding where the tent people set up and they hit a water main. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's starting to flood.
Been
like,
there.
You know, and like, and most of our couples never see that actually happening because they have somebody on the ground that's putting out the fires.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Can't agree more.
Another thing that I want to add is a lot of venues require a day of wedding coordinator, but there are some that don't. And so when people ask me, you know, do I need to have a wedding coordinator? In theory, no, you can do this yourself. You know, I tell people like, you don't need me, but my job, our job is to make your life easier. Do you want to be the one in charge of the rentals on the day of your wedding? Do you want to have your mom in charge of that? You know, it's one of those things where do you need to have us there? Like, you need to have, I don't know, a caterer? Technically, no, but you've paid this much for your wedding already. Is it worth that extra expense to make sure that all of your other investments really make sense and you maximize them to the best that you can?
You guys never go to weddings where there's not a coordinator because you are like literally there. But for me, I see it where, we have our couples that don't have a coordinator on the site and it falls on somebody else. And usually it's family members. And that's such a bummer if mom or dad or, your sister or brother is the one who's doing that on your big day. They want to be there. They want to be present. They don't want to be like trying to figure out how to turn off a water main, or whatever. And
Totally.
I think that's sort of a basic tenet of why you should have a day of coordinator. But elephant in the room, that's not just all you do. You have all this knowledge and expertise that you bring to a wedding day. You have relationships that you've already created and fostered for years with some of these vendors, right? Let's talk about that, because that's something that if you have your family members there, they don't have that. They maybe don't have 1 or 2% of the knowledge and skills that you bring to a wedding day. So let's talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to put this on both of you guys. Like, why do you actually need a wedding coordinator? I've already sort of answered a little bit of it, but like, what do you guys bring to the table that makes all of our couples want to say, get a wedding coordinator now? If you don't have one, go out and book one.
Feedback from the couple's perspective as to why to hire a coordinator is it comes down to the stress realms. And it's one of my points. And, you only really know it until you experience it yourself. So in the case of individuals who are getting married and they hands down know they need a coordinator because they're thinking, gosh, I saw so-and-so's wedding. I was a part of it. I was the maid of honor. I know I need a coordinator because that was stressful for me and I wasn't even the bride, or I took on the role of that and I would hate to put that on someone else too. So we have, that realm of perspective. And then, as we kind of mentioned earlier, why do you need a coordinator? What do you guys do? My venue says I require it. What's this all about? So we come into different views of value, but, stress is definitely one of them. I feel as though your mind has a processing limit. And when you are, planning your wedding, you've got all this time, you've got all these resources, you've got all this family help. But when it comes to the day of and coordinating everything and receiving those dozens and dozens of calls from vendors to get every little text update, to hear that your guest missed the shuttle because X, Y, and Z, to, forget your bouquet in the room when you're going to line up for ceremony. I mean, there's just countless small examples and ways that a coordination team can bring value, can reduce stress. And all in all, you need someone to lift the mental weight for you. And granted, that's exactly the realm a coordinator can play, both logistically and just having everything managed. Because if we can't, then it's going to fall on someone else. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, your people who are closest to you will help you. But at the expense of their enjoyment, it's a bummer. But second to that, naturally, there is a realm of mayhem that happens behind the scenes.
Always.
No wedding has nothing happen. Perfect planning never implies perfect execution. There are so many factors outside of anyone's realm that happen on wedding days. And
like what?
So many, Joe. Jesus.
To name a few, vendors running behind, forgetting inventory that requires a drive across the island to deliver. That individual may be holding up other vendors and their setup. So it's a snowball effect in that regard. Don't even let me mention rain, wind, all those realms. Mother Nature plays her part in the day, and you have to hope you're on her good side when it comes to your wedding day.
For sure.
But overall, we don't want to worry people with all the things that do happen, but we couldn't even possibly begin to describe all of the things that end up coming down on the wedding day and how we're able to manage it. Emotionally, because we are connected yet disconnected, we make decisions in your best interest and with our experience forward.
I always say this, I love having parties. I hate actually having to host them. And that's something that when you have a coordinator, I feel like it's just, you take all of that stress off of the couple. they get to be present at their party as the guests of honor and not have to feel like they're doing all the work to make sure that everything goes well.
If there isn't a point person on the day, it will inevitably be the couple.
Right.
And for all the tiny tasks and updates and questions and oh no's and all those things, your family's going to be running to you over and over. And what kind of experience is that? I mean, you're trying to enjoy the broad moments of the day, the subtle kisses and all those things. But then, oh gosh, they ran out of juice for your one drink and they don't have enough. And what are you going to do?
Right.
My biggest push for a coordinator is this. And we talk to a lot of our couples about this. I mention it in consultation calls all the time. Booking a coordinator is like booking wedding day insurance. Yes, that does exist, and that's for different venues and such. But we see ourselves as the insurance policy of your wedding day.
I like that. That's great.
If you think about the average cost of a wedding, Tessa, these days.
I mean, it depends, but I would say 60, 80
$1 million.
at least.
Needless to say, you are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on this wedding day. And the way that we see it, time is money. You have one day. You've invested a ton. And the result is, great memories, great experiences, a totally fun day spent celebrating with your friends and your family. When it comes to our team, we are there to assure that all realms are valued. I mean, if you think about your photographer, let's just say hair and makeup is running behind, and then your photographer isn't able to get the shots that they wanted, and then they're rushing to the venue to, get the ceremony started, and then the ceremony begins late, and not only adding to the stress of what all of that happens there, but then, oh gosh, the bartender now has a delayed service, and then that leads even further into, let's just say, the dinner being late. The quality of service for your photographer is now diminished because they can't capture all that you've paid them for. The quality and length of time your guests were able to spend for cocktail hour diminishes, and they're kind of being rushed from one to the next. And then, goodness gracious, you've got maybe like a plated dinner, and then now the food quality is diminished. And all of these realms, can be mitigated. But at the end of the day, time is everything. And I think that a lot of people dismiss that because they're not time oriented, or they're not thinking of every minute as a dollar. Every favor that doesn't get put out because there wasn't enough time before cocktail hour, how much did you pay for those favors? Mm-hmm. For a missed opportunity of a photo with your grandma, you will never get that back on your wedding day. And so time is of the essence, and time is money. And I can't stress enough that we become this insurance policy that everything you paid for is ultimately given.
I love that so much. I mean, I think that's like, I'm sold, I'm hooked. I want to say, can we just take it back a little bit first? When do you actually start working with your couples? And so I know that a day of coordinator will learn everything about who the couple has booked. You guys will review contracts. You're going through all of those things to make sure that you are completely informed on what the couple has planned, and you can act in the best interest of your couples when things go wrong, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Traditional day of coordination, month of coordination, there's different names and terms that different companies use, and you'll certainly see this across all different states, across the U.S. certainly. Coordination traditionally is a wrap-up realm. Whether it's 1 month before, 2 months before, 2 weeks before. The term day of coordination gets misconstrued because contrary to, misbelief, we do not just show up on the day.
How stressful would that be?
Extremely chaotic, to say the least.
Yep, for sure.
But for ABC and our process, though it is a logistic wrap-up focus, we understand that most often couples will come, to needing a planner, whether by the venue or their own, desire. And they are doing this for the first time. They have no idea what they're doing. And for us, we like to pre-educate them at the start. Hey, here is some checklists. Here are some vendor recommendations. And for us, and most importantly, if I haven't, made that clear before, here is a timeline. Here is a timeline off the bat when you book, some preliminary things to keep in mind. Let's talk about it. It can certainly be fixed later, but let's get down to educating you guys on a successful day so that when we pick back up at the 2-month mark, things are in process and you've made educated decisions.
So Natalie, would you say 2 months out is about average for when you pick up for day of coordination?
Yes. We are firm believers that the more time, the better. And it really allows us at that couple month mark to collect all the information, to really redot all the I's and recross all the T's, assure everything is set, but also, in the case of mayhem management, let's fix anything that needs to be fixed before it gets too close to the day. That flexibility of time is so key to stepping into wedding days that we haven't planned ourselves. And that's been successful for us overall. Typically, 30 days out is a common day of coordination package or that's when things kick off. But we like to have a month before of preparing and then finally the month of takeover.
Funny thing is I don't do a lot of day of coordination, but the ones that I do, same as you, it's 2 months out because I find that a lot of times if it's any shorter than that, I'm not setting myself up for success. There is a lot of tying up the details or readjusting vendor contracts or, just a lot of things. And to do it 1 month out at that point, I think at 1 month out, you're kind of down to the wire where you should have all these answers set. So giving myself 2 months out gives me time to kind of fix anything that needs to be fixed. And then the day of starts at the 1 month point. So I think we're very similar in that sense where I'm like, I'm going in knowing that there is a little bit of chaos that I need to kind of calm first, and then we roll in.
And also, like, if you're starting so late in the game, like, at this point, your couple is probably already ready to, like, have their wedding. They don't want to be planning some of these things and working these details out the week of the wedding, right? They're probably already hosting their family and friends as they come in for their destination wedding or whatever.
Exactly. We just truly believe that a little bit more time leads to a little bit less stress and certainly more enjoyment as things get closer.
So, Natalie, as another wedding coordinator, I'm sure, I know I've seen a ton of crazy things that couples will never see. I think I've talked about this before about fixing a wedding cake, just a lot of things behind the scenes that, my couples will never know the crazy things that I've done. So I guess, can you give us some examples of, just again, it doesn't have to be crazy, but just things that go on behind the scenes that your couples will never know.
Wait, I do want crazy. So give me the...
Some crazy, some not. I guess find some crazy, some not.
Well, I've got a few. It's funny you mentioned cake because one of my early on memories of getting into the industry, some may not know, but prior to wedding planning, I actually went to pastry school.
Oh my gosh, you guys are twinsies.
We
you guys
are twins.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
BFFs, you've been replaced.
Gone.
I know, you sound way better on the microphone than I do. I
She
think
does.
easily going to be replaced after the show.
She's prepared. She brought notes.
She brought food.
Natalie's in.
I feel like it's okay. I'm all
This
right.
is Joe's
You'll be
last
better off.
episode. Say goodbye.
No, but speaking of cakes, I just recall this couple of hours. One of the blessings of their celebration was that they had all of their grandparents present. And not only that, with the nature of, finding new partners in life, there was several sets of grandparents that were able to join us that day. And one of the asks that they had of the grandmothers was for each of them to bake a cake for them. Now, based on the venue and based on some of the logistics on how this all unfolded, all of the cakes were completely melted when they arrived.
Oh, wow.
No.
All 7 of them.
Oh, my gosh.
I love cake. That's so exciting, though.
And with the skill set that I had recently had in school, and upon this discovery, I ran into the back, put them all in the refrigerator. We did what we could while we could, and I refrosted 7 cakes, and no one
amazing.
knew.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Is that a skill set typical of a coordinator? No. It was a fun thing to have happen at the end of the day.
It's a good skill set to have in your pocket, right?
So many things. And speaking of skill sets, I can't tell you how many sewing incidents we've had. Anything from, we had a groomsman who completely ripped out of his shirt right before a ceremony.
He was yoked out. He was
Were you at that wedding?
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, but we've had to re-sew buttons. We've had to sew bridesmaids into their dresses. We've had to re-sew pants that completely ripped right at the crotch. If we're being completely honest. One of our favorite kind of feel-good stories in regards to, fixing or adjusting attire was this couple of ours was doing a first look. And the bride was just beaming. She, to no one else's knowledge, was newly pregnant. And they were keeping a secret until much, much later. This was not to be revealed at all. And she was wearing this beautiful bright pink lipstick on her wedding day. And they did the first look. It was this gorgeous moment. He had tears in his eyes. He gave her a big kiss and was overcome with emotion and went down and kissed her belly.
And the lipstick.
You can guess what happened next.
Yep.
Bright pink lipstick right on her stomach.
Because it transferred from her lips to his, and
That's
his
super cute,
to
though.
the belly.
That's super cute.
Yes.
But if it's a secret and they don't
I
want
know.
anybody to know.
Exactly. So in the moment, it was just this beautiful experience. And then she goes, not only for the bright pink lipstick, but then they're both thinking, oh my gosh, everyone's going to know. So we, always come into our emergency wedding day kits with bleach pens, with Tide to Go pens, with items that can help with stains. And this was kind of a feel-good, fun one that we were able to work out, and no one knew.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What I love about coordinators is they always have these amazing emergency kits. So if you need a sewing kit, or if you need a stick of dynamite, they have it. They really do. And that's really, that's something else that, again, that's a huge tool set to be bringing to the table on a couple's wedding day. Tessa, tell us your stories. We know you have a couple crazy stories too. What do you got?
No, not crazy. It was just thinking about this past weekend. I did a wedding, and I think I told you, Joe, that I had 8 guys and none of them knew how to tie a tie. So it's just that thing where they all have ties, they're doing their thing, and I'm in the bride's room and her fiance calls and she's like, hey, can you go down to the guys' room? Nobody knows how to tie a tie. So I'm like, sure. So I'm sitting there. We're standing there in the mirror trying to get all these ties done. And again, it's one of those things where there was no thought about it. They were like, oh yeah, we can do it. And as they kind of started, they're like, oh, we don't know how to do it. We're not doing it well. It's not looking good.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of quickly trying to get all of these done. Photographers waiting, and it's kind of that faking where I'm like, don't get a picture of me, but putting it on the guys, making it look like they're doing it themselves, right? Again, nobody should know that we're doing this if we're doing it right.
Right. I'm also a huge fan of the clip-on ties. I think they're awesome, but
I'm a fan of the clip-on bow ties because I've gotten a handful of, we don't know how to tie a bow tie. And I just think, why would you do that to yourself?
Well, I think a lot of them don't realize when they order the full suit that it comes with a real bow tie. So they'll be like, what's this? And I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I'm like, and it's funny because it's different than a tie. With a bow tie, you have to do it on the person. So I'm like, okay, I got to stick a mint in my mouth. And I'm like, because you're just right up in their face, and it's so close. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I had a lot of coffee today, but I need to be up in your face to get this bow tie on you.
I know that there's some things that coordinators, it's not in their wheelhouse to do. Let's talk about what are realistic expectations for a coordinator, and what are some things that you guys aren't supposed to be doing?
Yeah, well, coordinators end up being the catch-all for everything. And in good planning tactics, we won't be responsible for anything except realms of decor setup, beautifying, guest management, vendor management. But at the end of the day, we will bust dishes. We will take out trash. Now, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about coordination is that we do it all. We do not replace the role of a caterer. We don't replace the role of a florist. We're not intended to replace the role of really anybody there. But that, as coordinators, is what we do in order to make sure that your day goes smooth. We can plan, and communicate. But if things don't get handled, we will handle it. My business partner, Lauren, would laugh alongside me and be like, don't say that. But but truly, we have played every single role of the wedding vendors. We've officiated before. We've done flowers before. I've emceed a wedding before. We have picked up trash. We have bussed plates. We have cut cake. Short of doing hair and makeup, I think we've hit about everything else. Hey, putting on eyelashes, fixing eyelash glue. We're playing all these different roles. And so all in all, we're there to help these couples.
I totally agree with you. You know, I think it's one of those things where we just get kind of thrown in, where we can plan and we can communicate as much as we like of, okay, so who is taking out your trash, or who is putting those chairs away? The hard thing, right, is if it's a family friend and family friend starts drinking, right, it's understanding that it will often fall to your wedding coordinator on the day of. So we go in with the open mind of, okay, we have our plan, we know who's in charge of these things, but if things go wrong, you know, we had miscommunication before where the florist didn't bring the flowers in time, so I'm decorating the cake. Or, you know, like Natalie said, like the caterer decided that they're not cutting the cake, or they're, again, miscommunication, so we will cut and serve that cake. So is it our job per se? No. But as the day of coordinator, will it become our job? Yes, it will.
I know we've touched on a lot of other things, but outside of that, I mean, again, we're an advocate for your plans. We have worked alongside you, you know, at minimum for the past couple months, so we are able to learn all about your preferences, your priorities, and all these things that allow us to make decisions on your behalf that will be in the better interest of everybody.
Natalie, what are some tips to make working with your day of coordinator as successful as possible?
I would say there's 3 things that come to mind. Number 1, communicate everything. I know it's a big ask at times because, gosh, you spent the last year planning your wedding, all the small decisions, all the small preferences, but that success is based on how well you can communicate it all over. You know, hoping your coordinator has resources that can remind you and pull those details out of you well, but every little nuance and every little preference, just share it, even if you think that it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know, if Uncle Bob is handling a delivery of something and you're like, oh, don't worry, my mom knows about it and we'll just, you know, it's our family. It's not a professional vendor. It doesn't matter. Uncle Bob doesn't show up. Ceremony's happening. Are we going to have to bother your mom? Are we going to have to bother you? Like, that's such an unfortunate circumstance. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you know, it's a bigger example, but at the end of the day, if you wanted a white flower in your hair, not a pink flower, and you walk out and I see that all they have is pink flowers, you know, that is something that we could have prepared for in advance. Other than that, know your priorities. We are going to make decisions on your behalf differently based on the priorities you put forward. You know, clearly we are timeline lovers and we value making sure that things run smoothly, but let's just say that you really, really value your photography and that is just the top part of your day and your photographer is in the middle of this beautiful, you know, photo shoot realm, you know, you guys are really into it, and am I going to cut you short because dinner's about to start, or am I going to give you guys a couple extra minutes, maybe another 10, 15 minutes at most, because I'll know that those priorities are to capture those moments. Versus if food is your number one, we are not having dinner any later than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. You know, we're really there to make sure, hey, we're getting you guys snacks, we're getting you guys beverages, you're having a little extra sample of the appetizers. They're just all ways that we can really create the unique experience for you. And knowing all of that, it just helps us do our job better. But finally, trust your coordinator. We have been doing this hopefully more than you have,
Yep.
in the scope of just there are decisions that we make and or recommendations that we make to you based on the success of our past events and celebrations. And I know it's as a day of coordinator, you know, we're essentially being handed this child that has been grown and raised. It's like your wedding is your baby. You've made financial investments, emotional investments, and there's just this great anticipation to see it all through. And so with that in mind, sometimes you just get stuck in your way of it has to be this way. This is how we planned it. But that's why we're here. You know, it's when it comes to a timeline making sense or considering other things that may need to happen, trust that we have your best interests in mind, your best priorities in mind, and we can get to the solution together.
That is so true. And you guys have been to hundreds, thousands of weddings, right? Most people have only had one wedding in their life, or maybe 2, or maybe 3. But the experience that you bring to the table from being at so many weddings and learning from each of those unique experiences is priceless.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
Well, I am totally sold. You guys are amazing. Natalie, thank you so much for being our guest. I've learned so much. I love hearing all of your stories. I've worked with you at many weddings. Your guys' team is amazing. And I'm so happy that our listeners now can really understand why they should have a chaos manager, AKA wedding coordinator, at their wedding.
So Natalie, tell us where people can find you. Tell us, your website, social media, like where are you everywhere?
Yes. Well, Aloha Bridal Connections is our formal business name, though everyone calls us ABC or ABC Weddings. AlohaBridalConnections.com is our website, and ABC Weddings is our Instagram, which is where that commonly comes from. But we'd love to connect with you. Please reach out. And we're really excited to share knowledge, share love, and share some fun.
Woo!
Again, I'm so excited that we had Natalie here. It was great to hear perspective from another wedding coordinator. Just listening to other points of view really brings home the fact that having a wedding coordinator on your day of is so, so important. So if you guys like this episode, please like, follow, subscribe. Don't forget to listen. Find us on social media. We are everywhere. Hit us up on Patreon. And thanks again for listening, guys.
All right. Until next time, we will see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Unveiling Paradise.
If you enjoy our show, please follow us and rate us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would really mean a lot.
And don't forget to also get on our mailing list and follow us on Instagram. Just do it already.
Until next time, this is Tessa.
And this is Joe.
And don't forget, your happily ever after
is just a plane ride away.